Hi, this is Joe Mattiello, developer of Provenance Emulator. This is a quick tutorial on how to use and import ROMs into the game. Side menu, add games. You can either choose the local files or you can use web server. Cloud and local files is pretty self-explanatory. It's the default iOS file browser. We'll do the web server ones. You can actually view the web server directly on the device itself, or you can open up that IP address that was just listed from another computer. You use the imports folder, upload files, and again, from a web browser, another computer, you do the same thing. So I have a bunch of ROMs on here already for testing that, of course, I legally own. So I don't have any Atari games on here so far, so let's go ahead and import these. You see they imported. If you have zips or larger files, there'll be a download queue here, but these are pretty small. You see they already imported. You can do a bunch of other stuff to them. You can mark favorites. You can do some management. If you do game info, you can look at more information, I think, on the game. I believe you can even edit it, right? Yeah, if you long press on any of these, you can edit the information. There's a bug right now where if there's nothing in there, you can't do it because this field is too small. I will fix that eventually. But yeah, long press on these, and then you can change the information here. What else can you do? If there's multiple systems, you can do open in. You can choose systems. Ignore the duplicates. That is a bug because I have another version installed in the background. You can move to different systems. So if it imported to the wrong system, let's say I thought it was Atari 2600 game, we could just go ahead and do move system and move it back to the system it belongs to. Sometimes if you have move a system, and this will have a bug on the UI where it'll show like 3DS, like the first system or whatever it is. Just use the side menu and go to the right one. You can scroll between systems. You can go to the home screen. This will show your entire library and your recent save states you recently played, stuff like that. Also, we should probably go one more thing here, which is settings. So, you can do search. Pretty self-explanatory there as well. We have a number of settings here. You can go to system view. You can look at the number of systems. You can look at the BIOS requirements. You can tap on any of these, and the MD5 for the BIOS will be copied to the clipboard. Then you can Google your friend your way to find them. Well, there is a bug right now in the current version where sometimes it shows mismatches when they're not. Don't worry about mismatches. Mismatches will still work for most mismatches. Here's a list of emulator cores that are in the app. You can search in here to see if a system is supported. So Atari, here we go. It's supported by Medifin, it's supported by the Pro System Core. And then we kind of have the inverse of that under the systems menu as well, where you're looking at the systems, and this will show you how many cores each system is supported by. If you are a paid Providence Plus member, you get to change the color themes. This is locked out otherwise. This helps support the app development, which takes a ton of time. You have appearance options. These are also available from the home screen. Core options are the options for each individual core. There are many. So if you have a core and you think you want to change some options, look here to see if there's available options for it first. You also can do this from inside the game. A number feature for autosaves. If you want to even have autosaves on after 30 seconds of playing the game, it'll make it autosave when you close the game. Timed autosaves are saves that happen during the progress of the playing of the game. You can use this timer to change how long that interval is. You can have auto load saves on so it never prompts you. It just automatically loads the last save each time. And then you can even turn that prompt off completely. If you never want to use saves, you can use this to turn that off. You have a number of audio options here, just the volume and the volume HUD, which isn't working anyway, so ignore that. For Providence Plus members, you can actually change some of the audio settings. You can choose 3 different versions of the engine. This is the legacy version on by default. You have the newer, updated engine, and then you have this DSP engine, which is under development, so don't really use it yet because the sound is a little bit clippy on it. But these first 2 engines work fine, plus you can use the older ring buffer if you want. The performance is probably the same on both of them. This is just if you, for some reason, notice a difference to your ear and you want to use one over the other, it's available. But I usually use the AV audio engine and the Providence ring buffer. And you also can change the latency. For if you have a really slow device, you can increase this a little bit. Faster devices, you can get away with 5 milliseconds. And this is lagging. No, there we go. We have some video options. Most of these you can leave on by default, but we can go over some of the important ones. Multi-threaded rendering is probably fine to leave on for all cores. Just leave that. 4x multi-sampling for GL. This will actually change the resolution of the CRT filters. So if you turn this on, it'll be a little bit tighter grid. You turn it off, a little bit larger grid. Native scale means that the core will run in the original resolution of the system. So if the original system was 320 by 240, it'll run in 320 by 240. Integer scale means that it'll scale to the full screen, but only will do it in integer intervals. So for like 320 by 240, it'll be like 640 by 480 or another like 2x, 3x, 4x that fits the screen. Without this on, it'll just fill the whole screen, which might have some type of, you might get a little bit of like edge blur a little bit. So it depends if you want to have a little bit of like a black bar around it. So integer scales. Otherwise, you can turn this off. It'll fill the entire screen. Image smoothing is just a default iOS like anti-aliasing. Most people probably want to leave that off. And then FPS counter, if you're trying to debug some performance issues, you can turn that on, but for most people, turn it off. The CRT filter, this is actually for the old system. If you want to use a CRT system filter for OpenGLES, you turn that on, but for Metal, which is the default renderer, you can use this one here. There's also a simpler version, which has, it doesn't have the bow and some of the blur effects. A little better on performance for older devices. I actually prefer the regular CRT filter. Controller options, you can select up to 8 players with external controllers. It also supports the iPad keyboard as a controller. You actually can do 2 players on that. W8, AWSD for 1 player, and I forget the other keys for the other one. I'll have to document that at some point. My apologies. And if you're using iKey controllers, you can select those here. And also the special mapping for the 8-bit to M30 iCade. If you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. If you do, then you probably want to use that setting. This is for the on-screen controls. You can change the opacity of the on-screen controls. You can use colors, like SNES, for instance, is themed to look like it's SNES colors with the red and the green and everything, and blue. If you turn this off, it becomes monochromatic. All right shoulder buttons. If you have an L and R on a system, this will put them both on the right side. Some people want to play with like just one hand, and then you can hit both of them with your thumb that way. Haptic feedback is the vibration when you tap a button. Missing buttons always on is a kind of a stupid setting, but people wanted it. It'll just show the start and select on systems that don't actually have those buttons. On-screen joystick is for N64, PSP, PSX, and etc. that have a joystick. You can choose to not display it if you don't want to use it. Otherwise, this will display it, which is on by default, obviously. And then also, if you have a keyboard and you're using that as a controller, you can use this option to turn the joystick on or off only when the keyboard's connected. If you have any conflicts to manage, you can use that setting here to manage conflicts on imports. This is a little bit buggy right now. We're rewriting the whole import system, so by the time you watch this video, if it's after November, December of this year, it'll probably be a completely different system anyway. If you do happen to have issues with the import process, you can force re-importing. You can reset everything, use that with caution. You can refresh the game library, which does a full rescan and tries to re-import metadata. And you can empty the image cache, which probably isn't really necessary, but it's there for debugging. And if you're a Provenance Plus member, you can turn on some extra options. You can turn off the auto screen lock. So that way, if you put your device down for a while, it doesn't lock the screen. You can go back to the old OpenGL renderer. It's very buggy, so I wouldn't recommend really using it. But if for some reason there's a core that you think runs better on that one, you can turn that off. You can use the old UIKit UI. If you see now, if I can get this to actually react to my clicks. Wow, this iOS capture thing is really buggy. Oh, let's turn that back on for now then. Movable buttons is another feature you can have as a Premium Plus member. You can tap the screen 3 times on the gameplay, and then you can move the buttons around. This is still in development. It will save where the buttons are located between each run. That was a feature that was recently added. Though when you rotate the landscape, sometimes they will clip off the screen. There's a reset feature now to reset their default layout. It's still under development because I still have to write it so that it saves the state differently between landscape and portrait. So this is still like a work in progress, but it works pretty well. It's just that under rotation, you have to kind of change the layout yourself. And then WebDAV always on. This is if you want to always run the background web importer. Both the WebDAV and the regular HTTP server import will always be running. So like if you have your iPad plugged into power and you just want to import a bunch of ROMs while you're playing, you can turn this on. Apple TV already has that on since it's using wall power. And then we have a various number of links. You can support the project on Patreon. You can look at our Discord and get some help there. You can look at our X for follow for news. This video is on YouTube, so obviously that exists already, etc. And look at the source code on GitHub, and then you can look at some of the website stuff. Nothing really too fancy there. You usually don't update it. Okay, this is not responding to any clicks, so I'm going to pause this and try to fix this. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. This has been a demo of Provenance. If you have any questions, if you want to support the app, please get Provenance Plus or join our Patreon. Thank you for watching this demo. I hope this helped.